this unit have a soul? Well, we won't be answering that question this time, but we will be taking a look at one of the Turtles' earliest interactions with artificial intelligence in this week's episode. This is Duderonomy. I'm Dan.
And I'm Bryan.
And this week we take a look at Season 2, Episode 4, The Mean Machines.
We have a bit of a return to form this week. Last week we were lamenting a little bit about how the quality took a bit of a dip. The writing was kind of iffy. The animation was kind of iffy. We are back in full turtle force this week because this episode really came together nice. It had a lot of really solid jokes and a considerate start to finish plot, which is almost unheard of. We're going to open the scene with a nice pan down over the city skyline into a manhole cover and down to the sewers below. Turtles and Splinter are sparring. And Splinter rocks Mikey's ass in 0.2 seconds.
Yeah, incredible monkey flip. I just got to pause right here for a second and say, I think this might be the first episode where we are on very different terms.
Oh, this ought to be interesting.
I think this one's going to be interesting.
Okay. That's called you said it's a monkey flip?
Yep, it's called a monkey flip.
All right. Immediately followed Monkey Flipping Mikey by Monkey Flipping Raph.
Yep, just not wasting any time. Raph poking fun at Mikey, be like, all right, get over here. Let me show you what you got, and just tosses him aside the same way.
Oh, Raph's not making fun of Mikey. He's straight up body shaming Mikey. That was mean.
Yeah.
That was some of the meanest Raph we've seen. But yeah.
Very rude here.
The rudest of dudes. Immediately falls for the same goddamn move, though. Which results in him getting tossed into Don. And, okay, I'm just making kind of like a show note here. I absolutely am going to take a freeze frame of this later on and post it in our Discord. Oh, by the way, we have a Discord.
Yeah. Join us.
We figured there's enough conversation to be had, and all four of you listening would join us in Discord. We've got a place to put memes, critiques, memories, all kinds of stuff, and it'll be living, breathing, growing. We'll put it in the show notes. There's a link down there. Please join us on Discord.
Give us your best late 80s, early 90s punk looks.
Yes. Seriously, though, there's nothing better than collaborating with other Turtle fans. So, I mean, the whole reason we're doing this because Dan and I cannot shut up about Turtles. We've been talking about it since we were in college almost 20 years ago. We'd love to talk with them more. So please join us on the Discord. Anyways, the point of that statement was that the freeze frame before Raph gets thrown into Donnie is amazing. Donnie goes like full like Bugs Bunny bug eye like describing an audio doesn't do it justice. I will post it in the Discord. There's your incentive to go join us.
Oh my god, yeah. Wow, I just saw that. That is amazing.
He looks like one of the Turtle Tunes figures that like you pull their arm and the tongue sticks out or whatever like that.
Oh my god. That is amazing. Yeah, we definitely need. I'll put that up on our Twitter too.
So Donnie gets rocked by Raphael's flying carcass and loses this tracking device that he's been working on. He sets the tracking device, and Leo uses his sword to catch the expensive, delicate electrical tracking device, but he never uses his sword for anything else.
Yeah.
Prime opportunity to catch it with your soft palm, Leonardo.
Well, he's not Baxter. We know Baxter has soft hands.
The Baxter does have soft hands. Donnie says he built this tracker out of fragments from the alien ship to find the Eye of Sarnath fragments. That was 2 whole episodes ago, and still like doing a decent job tying the plot together. But
okay, I'm gonna admit to something here. I watched this, heard that, immediately forgot about it, and just went back to thinking that they were using the crystal to track the other crystals.
I mean, that's what they were counting on all of us at 5 years old to do. But
well, I guess it worked.
The takeaway is it's not a tracking device. It's a Gordon Gekko brick cell phone from the 1980s. Like, not even... Did they have dial pads on the alien ship, I guess?
Right, yeah. So much of that is just like... I mean, I kind of love the tech that they have in this show because it is just a hodgepodge of shapes.
Shapes and buttons. And
right, like, yeah, it kind of looks like a phone with a screwdriver and a whole bunch of dials and I don't know, let's put like a targeting shade from some gun. Like, I don't know.
Kids are stupid. Kids are stupid. They could straight up put a rotary in there, and kids were like, "Whoa!"
Like, there's an external wire for no reason.
It just makes me think of like Star Wars a lot. So like infamously in The Empire Strikes Back, there's a character in Bespin, the Cloud City, when it's getting raided by the Empire, and he just goes running by holding an ice cream machine. This is notorious. Like, I'm not breaking any news here, and it's become like a meme. It's become a cosplay. I think they even made like a fan-sourced action figure out of him. He's got a name now, but it's straight up just a repainted ice cream machine because it looked kind of spacey, and then they worked it into the plot as like a safe kind of device in the Mandalorian. But like, also, are you watching Andor?
I'm on episode. I think I just finished episode 3.
Okay, so full disclosure, these are being recorded significantly in advance. This episode's being recorded in October. It's probably not going to broadcast till November or December if the timing lines up. But yeah, like Andor just came to a close. We've been watching the Disney Plus series Andor, and there is a moment where one of the kids in like the small rebellion group that Andor finds that is just straight up holding a Polaroid camera. And like, they didn't even do a very good job disguising it. They call it like a navigation system thing that only the kid can understand because it's like displaying old language. It's a fucking Polaroid camera.
I'll have to keep my eye out for that.
I love shit like that. I think you've seen it already by episode 3. Maybe it's episode 4.
Yeah, either I missed it or it is upcoming.
It's not a huge spoiler. It's just another gadget that they use. Apologies if I ruined your experience. All right, so they've got this tracker thing, and the turtles need to go use it, which means going up street side. Leo says, we need disguises. And then
because apparently they need them now.
Literally
the last episode, they were in broad daylight at a carnival.
If it makes you feel any better, they only use them for about 3 seconds.
And they even lampshade it in the episode again. But we'll get to that. We will get to that because, more importantly, Mikey's response is
no problemo, man. I'll handle it.
And I do want to like pause here because I know you said like last episode was when the animation was off, and maybe this is just it like playing tricks on me from the last episode to this one, but I thought the animation seemed really chunky here. Like the turtles seemed chunkier.
They are chunkier. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I just noticed it really prominently here in that like sewer scene.
We'll touch on it again because towards the end, like there's some tracking scenes where they're in motion that really melt down.
Yeah, some real bad ones.
I want to just kind of chalk that up to 80s hand drawn, non-computer assisted animation. Like it, they were trying. They just fell really flat.
Or it could have just been like another studio that took some of those and they spliced them together.
Oh, they're clearly still shuffling studios in order to get this volume of episodes out. I don't think that's any question. So you move up to street side. Turtles are following the tracker, tracking. They take a page from the Marvel Book of Disguises where they just wear hoodies with hats.
I thought they were dressed up like monks.
So, yeah, okay. So that was my first takeaway. There's nothing inconspicuous about 4 dudes walking around in matching hoodies. And then the camera pulls back and I go, oh, shit, they're not hoodies. They're wearing creepy monk robes with
Groucho Marx sunglasses.
With Groucho Marx masks. Yeah, the classic nose mustache. Yeah, that's not conspicuous at all. The tracker leads them to a bank. The bank is getting robbed naturally. Instantly, disguise is gone.
Yep.
Worst ninjas ever.
They get into garbage cans and pop out. And they just immediately fall off.
Shredder is on the rooftop above.
In his own disguise.
Apparently shopping at the same robe store. The turtles corner the bank robbers in an alley down below. Shredder is aware. He says, Baxter, you need to go down there and get my shit back. Apparently the crystal's down there in a garbage bin or something like that. He says,
because swine like you understand garbage.
And that's a real missed opportunity. If they're trying to foreshadow him turning into a fly, like flies like garbage too.
Yep. I mean, this was so funny to me because I watched it and I understood that like the gem was somewhere in this alleyway, but I did not make the connection that it was definitively in that dumpster. So when Shredder like mentions the garbage, and then Baxter slips on a banana peel and falls into the dumpster, and then they find it, I was like, wait, the gem was actually in the dumpster?
That's your takeaway? Because my takeaway was Shredder jumps down 5 stories, and he really could have used that kind of skill in the first movie.
Well, I mean, we all know that Shredder could just, for the most part, fall from high places when he intends to.
I guess? I mean, if that was the case, Casey Jones wouldn't have crushed him in a garbage truck.
He didn't intend to.
All right.
When he enters the fight, he means to fall from the sky. When Splinter throws him over the building, spoilers for a movie from 1990, he didn't mean to do that. All
right. You're going to give him a break. I get it. I get it. The bank robbers are cornered in a back alley. They start blasting.
Yep.
Turtles start blocking it with trash can lids.
Of course.
And my note just says nope. Because they're clearly shooting bullets in this one. There's no laser beams. There's no laser sounds. Those are semi-automatic rifles. The model I don't know because I'm not that familiar with gun types. But it's using
poorly drawn guns from the 80s.
And there's bullets in it. So, yeah. My next note says Mikey disarms them and Leo drops... Shit, I wrote that wrong. It says Leo drops pain on them.
He does.
No, he drops paint, like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone.
It probably hurt.
But it's it's probably pain. So then the Shredder escapes. He and Baxter, they've got the crystal. They steal a taxi, and the worst ninjas ever run out of the alleyway in broad daylight without their disguises on, and stand next to the abandoned cabbie, who is having a mild aneurysm in the moment.
What is happening to the city? It used to be such a refined center of culture.
His sentence slows down to this painful crawl. He's so confused. He's not scared of the 5-foot turtle standing next to him. He's just confused.
He's disappointed.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have our going to LaGuardia moment of the episode.
And from an actual cabbie.
Yeah, it works. Double down.
You're going to LaGuardia, right?
We move on to another warehouse lab for Baxter. That's like 4 now, right? They're analyzing the crystal and reporting back to Krang. And they even admit that they don't know what kind of power this thing has and how they're going to wield it. And that's just irresponsible supervillainy.
I mean, like, the last 3 episodes, my notes in this actual moment are just blah, blah, blah. Crystal will give ultimate power. Krang doesn't believe him. Shredder is a wimp. Bullies Baxter to feel better about himself. It's just cut and paste this entire conversation from the last 3 episodes repeated.
Yeah, Shredder is just adamant about making sure that Krang still has his approval or whatever, or he still has Krang's approval.
Which he doesn't, explicitly.
He does not. Because my immediate next note is just Krang, doubt.
Like, there is not a single moment in this episode where Krang remotely believes Shredder has it together.
No. He's just sitting in his throne in Dimension X, vibing. Shredder's like, I'm working, and Krang's like, sure you are. And then obviously Shredder's going to throw a tantrum when Krang doesn't approve of his work, and he knocks over a whole box. We crossfade to the Turtles and Split.
Wait, can I take over this one?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the cabbie having an aneurysm, and I'm pretty sure I almost did watching this next segment. Because I just wrote 4 okays in a row while I was watching this part. So, okay.
So many of my notes are okay in this.
So Donnie hooks up the crystal tracker to the turtle van, a thing he just decided he could do. He's had the ability to track the crystals through the other crystal, but now he's made his own thing. He's going to hook it up to the turtle van. And seconds after stepping into the van, literal seconds, the van blows up. There's an explosion within the van. The van goes haywire and charges straight at the other turtles and Splinter. Mikey says, "Yours truly will handle this," and throws his nunchuck like a fucking boomerang, curving through an apparently open window of the van, magically tying around the steering wheel, veering it off course, preventing from hitting him and his brothers and Splinter before the van crashes into the wall.
You have covered a page and a half of my notes of like, what the fuckery.
Exactly. Like, the whole thing is like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, he breaks physics. I call it a Legolas moment where he just it just wraps around the wheel. They're standing straight in front of it. There's no way in hell, even with a boomerang, that would have worked.
And there's even like a magical sound effect to the nunchuck as it swoops around.
Oh yeah, that amazing sound design. Listen, nothing against the sound designers, but that moment was stupid as shit.
I'm just like, you even look at it, and it's in his left hand. He crosses across his body.
That's a good pickup. I didn't even realize he's going left to right on it too.
I like, my mind broke in the moment. I was just like, what just happened? And everyone's like, yeah, cool. Even Raph is like, it's really comforting knowing you figured that out.
My only takeaway that's positive from this is we get our first take, like our first taste of the alien tech, right? So like the scanner pops and the van blows up and everything goes haywire, and we finally have an understanding of like what this thing is capable of.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but a taste.
We know it has something to do with electronics or machines or something along those lines.
Apparently.
It's not going to be plants this time. It's not going to be shrinking. It's going to be something magical about electricity. We'll get into that too, because boy, do I have some notes.
I did want to point out a little animation bug. When Leo's talking to the group, there's a moment where his mask entirely disappears for a frame, while Donnie's just about to go try to use the van to boost tracker signal kind of thing. Just catching these little errors along the way.
Yeah. It's funny because it's literally like a split second, but it's enough of a frame jump to visually see it.
Yeah, you can't really miss it as a casual viewer, so that's why I pointed out. So next scene, Dan, take over.
So Baxter and Shredder are in a new tech lab. This is number 3 of the episode, at least number 2.
2 of the episode, I think 4 or 5 of the overall.
Of the arc.
Yes.
And they have found, I guess they found a computer. like Baxter didn't make this. He doesn't trust it, so he definitely didn't make it. They seem to have found an artificial intelligence, which has just an awesome name. It's Omnis, the Omnipotent Multi-Processing Nexus Sub-Universal Sentience.
I had to go and rewind that 3 times to write it down.
The official naming for it isn't even like OMNUS. It's OMNSS with periods between every single one.
Sure.
So like, okay, cool, yeah. And he immediately turns on. It's some like Megatron looking thing.
Zordon. I said Zordon.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because it's just a face on like a blue screen. So yeah, a Zordon is a better. But I want. It looks more like a GoBot. You know,
it does.
It doesn't have a smooth human face. It has a robot angular face.
It's like PlayStation 1 polygonal.
Yeah. And Shredder's like, oh my god, it's an artificial intelligence. And Baxter's like,
I prefer the real thing.
Sticking up for himself for once in this series.
My notes say Baxter's jelly. I also like that they're actually operating out of a skyrise for once, like a nice lab,
right.
Not like a shithole Brooklyn like shipping dock warehouse lab.
Well, that's how you could tell neither one of them had anything to do with this.
Yeah, that was okay. So this is going to come at the end of the show, but like, screw it, I'm going to bring it up now. Was the AI just there, or was that implied to be the alien technology taking over? Because they never clear it up.
Brian, that's not coming at the end of the show. That's coming right now. Because all the notes that I have are, why does this thing even exist? Who made
I was
it?
going to ask at the end of the show, anticipating that there was going to be some kind of like, all right, I'm writing in real time, and there's a note like, what the hell is this thing? And then I get to the end of the series, and like, they don't explain it, or the end of the episode, and like, they don't explain it.
No, they don't. There are other buildings that have names of companies. This one does not. It is explicitly left blank. No one talks about where it came from. No one talks about who made it. Why do they program it to be such an asshole?
All right, in my headcanon, this is the 87 series rendition of the TCRI building that Baxter is no longer welcome at. That's my headcanon.
But then he'd know about it, right?
You'd think.
And also, like, so it's okay. So Omnis says, a disbeliever, eh? And then just starts electrocuting everything in the room.
Yeah, it goes full on like Ghost in the Machine. Now, Ghost in the Machine is not Ghost in the Shell. I'm referencing a movie from 1993 where a serial killer possesses the internet. That's the plot. That's the plot. And makes everything go haywire, from like hand dryers, which cooks a man alive, to dishwashing machines, which drowns a woman in her own kitchen and then electrocutes her. That's all I could think of watching this episode. But then my takeaway was Turtles did it first.
Yeah. I mean, that's hilarious. I love the idea that the Ninja Turtles inspired a horror movie a couple years later.
For real, go look up Ghost in the Machine. It is campy, crappy, awesome, gratuitous, violent Halloween goodness.
It's just kind of amazing because this artificial intelligence controls machines, and yet nearly all of the things it controls, I mean, okay, I don't want to say that. Not nearly all, but many of the things it controls are explicitly not machines.
Yeah, we'll touch on that again and again and again.
Or like they're machines, but like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean when you say it controls machines? Because some of the things it's controlling are not electric, not connected to the internet because it's 1987.
The internet did exist, technically.
Not like, yeah, but not commercially.
I mean, there were still phone lines. I'm gonna give plot contrivance forgiveness to like the computer controlling all computer. Okay, in the 80s, nobody knew what a computer meant.
Okay, I get. Again, like I even like wrote in my own notes, like I am not trying to take away or say that like this episode should hold up to like rigorous standards or anything. I'm not expecting an Oscar-worthy script, but it was just very funny to me that like the first thing it does is just electrocute everything in the room, like output electricity. The very next thing we see it control are cars, which were not computers at this time.
No, definitely not 1989.
So I just immediately was like, wait. So this thing can just control anything.
That's it. Like that, appliances start going bonkers. There's printers, sheet of paper, and all kinds of crap and fax machines and whatever like that. It's the same thing in that movie in Ghost in the Machine, where just like anything that had like an LED light in it was fair game.
All right, well, keep this in mind because there's a real good one coming later on in the episode that I don't care. There isn't any excuse for, and it's the funniest thing that happens in this episode.
I just really like that Shredder is all about this. Like, honestly, my takeaway from this is Omnis can detect the turtles, right?
Yep.
Starts zapping electricity all over the city. Shredder has the most powerful weapon he's ever had here in the series. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Pretty much so far, at least.
Because next, Omnis brings an entire league of construction trucks and equipment to life to attack the turtles.
Yep.
I was really reminiscent about episode 2 of the series in season 1 with the assault on the Technodrome versus the robots, mostly because there is one that is an completely unnecessary giant piston that does nothing.
100%. I have the exact same note word for word.
What does that thing do? That's not a real truck. That's not a real...
It's just like a crusher,
yeah,
right?
But like that's not what the crushers look like. They're usually stationary. But the trucks they bring the trucks they bring to life are the piston thing,
yep.
A wrecking ball, which makes sense, a bulldozer, which makes sense, a cement mixer, which makes sense, and a backhoe, which makes sense. What the fuck is that piston thing?
I don't know.
Shit.
Have to look it up, but I mean, I had the exact same, like, this fight feels so much like that season 1 episode in the Technodrome with them fighting all the big robots. It has a really fun feel to it because of that.
It's almost an homage.
Yeah, which is funny that they homaged themselves 4 episodes later. But
there's additional homage later in the episode that I want to touch on. But until then, I did want to say, like, at this point, I went, this is just a parody of Maximum Overdrive by Stephen King, 1986. The summary of that movie is Stephen King was on cocaine and he wants you to be afraid of trucks. The end.
That's the inner sleeve to the book, actually.
Emilio Estevez, like, if you haven't seen that movie, use whatever substance gets you into the most positive mind space. Just go for a ride. Holy crap, that movie is so beautifully terrible. Please watch Maximum Overdrive.
There are 2 things that I skipped over. I want to, like, just go back to you momentarily, which is right before Omnis makes the trucks come alive. He, as you mentioned, he lets Shredder know that, like, I've detected mutants. This thing I'm totally aware exists, and Shredder's response is just go, destroy them! Which he does, like, exactly the same way again later in the episode. I just want to call out that line delivery because it's amazing.
Do you think it was a copy paste?
Oh, I absolutely think so. And then in the beginning of this scene with April and the Turtles in the construction site, April says,
Eating in broad daylight? It must be something really big.
No, April, they do this all the time. They literally did this last episode. They did it 5 minutes ago.
April should really be on, like, the ultimate gravy train of just, like, having a camera ready and just, like, you do your thing. I got it. We had another animation error here. Raph's voice comes out of Leo when Don says, oh, we're at a dead end. And Raph says, did you have to use the D word? Comes out of Leo's mouth.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm looking at the fight now with the pulverizer thing. The crusher.
The pulverizer.
It's just a piston hitting the ground.
What is that for? Anybody out there, if you're listening and you have any realm of understanding of construction equipment, I've never seen anything like that before. I've seen giant tractors. I've seen immense vehicles that occupy the length of, like, a 6-lane highway. Like, we've seen balers that can take down an entire forest. What the fuck is a giant piston?
Yeah, I tried doing, like, a quick Google search for it in the middle of our recording, and none of my current Googling is showing me anything useful.
No, I looked up before we started taping. I could not find a goddamn thing that made any sense.
Okay. So we're in the construction fight. It's looking pretty dire for the Turtles and April specifically. At one point, she's about to get run over by a bulldozer, and Leo's been swinging around on the wrecking ball, and he chops it down, pretty much single-handedly takes out 3 of the machines by himself. And this is, I want to say, moments after we have cut from Shredder claiming victory and Krang being like, nah, man, there's no way. Nice try, though.
Yeah, Shredder is watching the turmoil unfold on a dot matrix printer or whatever like that. And he's on the phone with Krang at the same time, telling him that the turtles are taken care of. And it's like, what is Shredder's deal here with constantly lying to Krang? Is he a Republican? The next response is Krang, doubt. But yeah, Leo was absolutely on fire in that fight. Like, that was a pretty good fight in general, especially for Leo. Like you said, dropping the wrecking ball, wrecking the bulldozer. Then he starts log running on the cement mixer, and then the backhoe shows up, and then he cuts the cement mixer, drops a bunch of cement out, and then the backhoe gets caught up in that Mikey's leading towards him. Mikey, or no, it was Donnie. Donnie was leading the backhoe towards him.
Yeah, he javelins himself over the cement.
Yep.
But man, like, there's something really fun about this fight scene because, like, the vehicles seem rubbery almost. One of them, like, does a full 180-degree backflip.
Extreme destruction.
And then we get the best part about it, where Mikey has one of his harebrained ideas, and it's not even that harebrained. It's actually an excellent idea. When faced with a piston smasher, whatever, please let us know what this vehicle is called, listeners. What do? Well, you get a wooden box and you sit on it in the middle of the construction site for a couple minutes and lure it in as your brothers are terrified for your life, only to barrel roll out of the way in time to smash a box of TNT and get blown to smithereens.
Yeah, that was a convenient find, was it not? I just had it written down that says Mikey has his Dark Knight Rises moment.
We need to get a still frame of him sitting on the box, because he's doing like this sly, almost like thinker like pose.
Yeah.
He's just got this devious smile on his face. It's like, dude, it's a car. I can't tell how sneaky you're being, but I love just how like proud of himself he is.
If you look up the word nonchalant in the dictionary, it's just a picture of that scene. But yeah, the moment I cringed most in the takeaway from this, though, is the destruction of April's news van, because those are really expensive. I don't care how it happened, but I've had to budget one of those out before, and I'm just like, nope, fuck all y'all turtles. I'm going home.
It's just so funny because, like, I guess the explosion took it out, but the van was behind the wall that they were hiding behind.
Yeah, no, it's another plot contrivance, of course.
It's just really funny to me. But yeah, man, a lot of expensive equipment, and the turtles are like, yeah, we'll worry about it later.
Verbatim.
Come on, guys, it's her job.
But they get away. Shredder is once again full of shit in front of Krang. Omnis hijacks a power plant, and that is our suspense break while we move back to the turtles at the lair.
Did you catch the reference on the television?
Yeah, I like that they're watching TV and there's like a half second of Astro Boy ripoff on the screen before the news report takes over. From, once again, the guy who sounds like Walter Cronkite, who is always filling in for April. We got to catch his name one of these times. There's got to be a name for this character.
Yeah.
He's doing April's job and he deserves credit. So yeah, the news says machines are going nuts. ATMs are spitting money all over the place. Cars going AWOL. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Yep. Machines are going berserk, except for the TV satellites, which are in perfect working order.
Obviously. April says, I should be covering this as I'm a news reporter.
Yes.
Yeah, you get out there, get to work.
This is true.
Omnis sends out a bunch of robots from the nearby robot dealership, and all I could think of watching this, 30 years later, was I fear for how this episode would have rebooted with the institution of like Boston Dynamics and whatnot.
God. Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah. You think this has any remote ties to the 2K3 episode Nano?
I don't remember it, so I couldn't really tell you.
2K3 contributed a lot of great new things, and we're going off on a bit of a diatribe here, but I promise it'll be quick.
Classic diversion.
There was at least 2, if not 3 episodes of the 2K3 series where there was a nanobot escape kind of cloud. It was like a cloud of little nanobots that got out of a lab and then took over like a junk pile in a junkyard.
Oh.
And became like another one of the monsters of the week that wasn't a mutant. And it was actually really great. Like everything about that arc was excellent. It's one of the best unique things that 2K3 contributed. Like the turtles wandering around like a junkyard. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that sounds familiar now.
I just wonder if that would this was a bit of an inspiration for that, like to give turtles an excuse to fight sentient robots.
It could be. I like these Robodyne robots. They're very fun looking, very Jetsons sci-fi future looking. One of them with all the arms on top looks like the serving droid from one of the cantinas in Star Wars.
True. And then they proceed to disappear for like 12 minutes.
Oh yeah. I mean, these things are great for a couple reasons. One of which is because we see them and then they don't do anything for a while. The one on the left kind of reminds me of like Johnny Number 5.
Input.
Yeah. Okay. So that was another thing I wanted to talk about was like 1980s robots. So we got Short Circuit, we got RoboCop, we got Terminator. Like, I don't know about you, but the 1980s really gave me a dystopian approach and perspective on like what robotics were going to mean for our life in the future.
I mean, there was definitely that attitude, right? Of like, the, I mean, it's still to this day, like a lot of people, when they think of robots, they think of like, oh, the robot apocalypse. The robots are going to come and kill us all or take us over. And it's like, okay, if everybody is collectively afraid of this, maybe we should stop building them. But that's besides the point. I do enjoy the visuals here because it really it harkens back to that like 1950s style view of sci-fi robots. You know, like it just has this like really fun Jetsons vibe to it. You see similar styles in like Fallout. A lot of like boxes, a lot of like lights and the like tentacle like arms, but
Junkyard builds, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's fun stuff.
So in the next scene, we've moved on to Channel 6, and Byrne is pissed about April not being around, and he calls her his star reporter, which I said, okay.
Right.
And then he gives the story to Vernon because April's not around, and I said, okay. Last time I checked, Vernon was a producer.
Yep.
Does anyone have defined roles at Channel 6? We've had Irma being like reception to like producer. We've had April be like field reporter to star reporter. Vernon from producer to on-air talent, apparently.
None of this makes any sense. Also, did Thompson's voice change?
Yeah, I wondered about that one. It sounded a little different, but I didn't look deep enough into it. It kind of sounds like they had to get a fill-in voice actor for this one. He only had like 3 lines.
True, yeah. It was just I just couldn't tell if it was like we haven't seen him in a little bit, so the voice sounded different to me, or if it was like an actual different actor. To me, it sounded like a different actor.
It sounds like a different actor doing a very valiant attempt.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole scene is really funny because everything we've seen so far of Byrne is that like he doesn't really like April.
Right.
He doesn't believe her or trust her like her knowledge or her experience or her hunches or whatever. And yet now suddenly she's his star reporter. He is also very aware of Vernon being completely pathetic and scared of everything. Because he says, maybe you ought to check out a bulletproof vest, and that immediately sends Vernon into another room.
Vernon is such a chicken shit in this. Like next level, but also he immediately plays the feminist card.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, suddenly he's an ally.
So it's like, oh, maybe we should equal opportunity and let April have the story, and then just kind of disappears. And like next up, this is the best insult of the show. So Vernon has like run off, and Burns says,
I've seen things with more backbone paddling around a tide pool.
it's like, that's a solid invertebrate joke in a show about terrapins. I'm impressed. Like that was a cerebral joke for kids.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks. I do have another one of those like, this is amazing moments. Like nothing like this has happened in the show thus far. It's never been referenced. We've never seen one. And yet here it is just this like totally normal thing about this version of New York City. The Turtles and April encounter a robot meter maid, and then they interrogate it.
Yeah, I thought those were real when I was a kid.
But like, this has never happened before.
I know, but again, like that show sold it to me so hard that it's like, wow, New York is just the future of civilization.
Go swallow a diode, amphibian breath. Great line from the robot meter maid, being controlled by Omnis. Not controlled enough to like attack the turtles, but to just be rude to them. But I just really love that like this New York City just has like really awesome technology, like a fully functioning robot police force. And I don't think we see it again, but we're going to find out.
Well, there is a robot cop that comes into play later on, an important iconic character that we'll touch on.
But how does Donnie not already have a robot meter maid? I feel like in that scene he would have been like, just knock her out and take her home.
That's a little rough for a 1987 kids show, but sure. Omnis next possesses the turtle van as they are driving down the middle of Midtown, and Leo's voice comes out of wrath this time, so everything balances out. Bail out!
Shrewd mood, Donatello.
I have to say, this is a legit smart move. And back to a better writing example for the show, that Don uses the tracker next to short out the van again.
Yeah.
I'll forgive that like earlier mulligan because this works. And obviously it saves them from crashing.
Yep. And I mean, we get that great line of Raph being like, if we ignore the problem, it might go away by itself. You're not helping.
Raph never does really help. So Omnis is pissed that they have not crashed. Shredder is demanding a Dimension X portal out of it because apparently it can do that now too.
Yep. Yeah. That just came out of nowhere. I love how it's just like, well, I mean, this kind of skips a scene, but we'll get back to it anyway. But yeah, he comes up with this idea of using Omnis to open a portal to Dimension X to get his Foot Clan back on Earth. But yeah, I mean, sure, that could do that, fine, whatever. But then, like, in the very next scene, he tells Krang that he's going to do it.
Preemptively.
Right. And it's like, but if you didn't need Krang, why are you letting Krang know? And if you are it's just one of those things like, Krang's not going to do it for you because he wants you to prove that you could do shit by yourself. And then your whole plan is to just get your Foot Clan back anyway when you already have this crazy AI that's controlling everything in the city. It just seems so convoluted.
Shredder is just a power-hungry mongrel. He's desperate to command an army.
Right? It really just seems like Shredder wants the accoutrement of a leader, but doesn't actually have any real motivation himself.
This Shredder is not a good leader. He's clearly second fiddle to Krang.
Well, yeah, clearly, but like he wants to be a ruler. He wants to have an army. He wants to have prestige, but like he doesn't know what to do with it. All of it is just like, I need to get the turtles. Why?
You say that, but I still say that the Shredder is just a kink daddy looking for Krang's approval. So the turtles have figured out that they have to defeat a computer.
Yep.
That's the length of their logic. Shredder is again simping for Krang.
And this is the worst animation in the episode, by the way. Them walking in the city with their weapons out. It looks like the coloring books we got when we were kids.
Worse than that. They're all rubber. Shredder just constantly is reporting into Krang like an overzealous intern. Do you get that vibe?
Oh, absolutely. He's got to let him know everything that he's doing, and he always lets him know preemptively. And when Krang calls him on it, we get this really great moment of Shredder pulling his metal collar like he's Rodney Dangerfield.
All I've taken away from this is like, if I was Krang, I'd be like, Shredder, just call me when it's done.
Right.
Shredding is cold out, and it's bullshit though, because finally the alarms go off in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Because turtles are still alive and kicking and invading. Here's another observation I had. From driving to walking down the hallway, is this what you were talking about earlier about like the animation going down hard? Because like when they're trying to walk in the hallway, everybody looks like they're made out of like Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the real worst spot was when they were outside, but everything from like that point on just gets like, it's like a completely different animation style than the previous 15 minutes.
It does feel like we got to the last 5 minutes of this episode and they just ran out of money.
Like they get into the building, and do you see April in the background of the shot of them walking down the hallway?
Yeah, her head's like pinhead.
April looks like she's in an anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's just a completely different style. Like she'd fit better in like Evangelion than this show.
That's a deep reach, but yeah, I guess I kind of see it. Anyways, a bunch of floor waxers and vacuums come out of the woodwork at this point.
Yep. What are they meant to do?
Well, I mean, I figured this is a logical follow-up to construction equipment.
Okay. I also have one final question that is definitely to... I'm looking way too into this, Brian, but that's the whole point of the show, right?
Yeah.
Answer me this. Why is that table so fucking huge? So Raph cuts down a vacuum, right? He stabs it with his two sides.
Yeah.
It then cuts to Leo, who, I'm coming up to it right now. Leo is spinning his swords.
Like a coin between his fingers.
Yep. And a floor cleaner is going underneath an absolutely massive table, which Leo cuts the legs out so that it falls on top of the thing. And I'm like, I don't know what else that is supposed to be other than a table for a giant.
Yeah, I did not pick up that initially, but yeah, it is an enormous table that's like taller than Leo himself.
Right, I get the turtles are short, but they're only like 4 or 5 feet tall. Like, why is this thing so huge?
Was TMNT initiating the standing desk before it was popular?
And it's like this really elaborate table. It's like a real fancy dining room table that is about the height of April O'Neil.
Yeah, I did not pick up on that. I'm glad you caught that. I have no explanation whatsoever.
Because it's not like a bookcase or anything. There's nothing in the middle. No. It's just 4 legs.
It's just an enormously tall table in the middle of a room on a skyscraper with a bunch of robots.
And here it is, followed by my very favorite moment of the whole episode. I mean, the table was really good, but this is so much better. Do you know what I'm going to say?
The fire hose?
The fucking fire hose.
The fucking fire hose. Like, starts leaking out like a serpent having like a clarinet played to it in a Looney Tunes cartoon. Yeah.
Omnis controls machines. We were already stretching the bounds of imagination by controlling machines that were explicitly not electric and not like connected to some kind of overall service. But you know what? Fine. I'll give you all of the cars and vacuums and other cleaners and stuff that it took control of. But this...
They at least had wheels.
This is a hose. There's not really a machine here. It just lets out water.
I can get behind like the sprinkler system going off, right, or the electrical fire hose system, like the water coming out in general. But as far as the hose like snaking up and like serpenting around, no. Come on.
And then Leo just tells Donnie to distract it. It's not alive. And Donnie goes, na, 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 and it works.
And it works. This is another kind of deja vu back to the second episode when they're climbing the building with the flooding water.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent callback to that.
It feels like kind of a soft reboot, right?
Why does it work?
Because the end? I don't know.
Right? Oh my God, it's just so funny.
Either way, they're going to overcome this. There's another animation error in here. There's 2 Raphs and a Don on screen. When Don speaks, no mouths move. He says, time for a little turtle traction, as everyone's trying to put on their climbing gear, which this time is suction cups, not claws. And then April says, it's 70 stories down. I hate to break this to you. For everyone out there listening, there's not that many 70 stories buildings in New York City or anywhere. Like, there's a handful of skyscrapers like that, but most buildings are somewhere in the 50 to 40 range and down.
This one was 70 stories and they weren't even at the top.
They weren't even at the top, not even close. Turtles ambush the shredder and the skyscraper by crawling up the side, and then they just straight up cut the power cord.
But like, also not at the same time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's just like so much of the last like 10 minutes of this episode. Okay, first of all, I gotta call this out. The Robodyne robots finally show up.
Yes, finally.
They break through a wall. One of them flies out the window. 2 seconds later, the exact same animation shot is used for them to burst through the wall again.
I did not catch that. You're right.
And yeah, as soon as the turtles, they climb up the building, they come in the window, and Leo just immediately throws his katana at an electrical cable. And then like 2 seconds later, they're like, I wonder how the computer died. Like, dude, you cut it. You cut the cable.
But it's not the reasoning that they get behind. So like all these janky ass robots come out, and then Omnis gets his cord cut and he like slowly fades away. And then turtles fight with honor, and then Shredder drops a smoke bomb and Ninja vanishes. And then they're like, the turtles, like, he got away. We need to make a supercut of he got away, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then they just say, wait, April just straight up unplugged him.
Yep.
So what did Leo do?
I don't know. Maybe he disconnected him from the satellite, or
Leo took out his LEDs.
yeah, right? It's like he cut the cord that connected to the power company. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. The last like 5-ish minutes of this episode really feel like they got to a point in the animation and they're like, oh man, this is running long. We just got to cut out everything.
I'd agree to that. Then Shredder is talking to Krang again, and Krang apparently has been demanding hourly updates. If I'm reading between the lines here, that sounds needy. And then I really enjoy that Shredder pulls into, I'm going into a tunnel. I can't hear you.
Yep. Just like pulls the oldest trick in the book to get out of that conversation. I'll tell you all about it later.
We're back at the lair, and we're debriefing with pizza. Mikey shows up with a toy robot that fades in from the shadows. Man, read the room.
Well, this is the gimmick now, right? Like, every episode is going to end with a gag about whatever they just fought.
Oh, we just fought a giant plant. Here's a flower.
Yep. Yeah. So now I'm going to keep my eye open for this. Just be like, before the last scene of every episode, we should write down what our prediction is for the thing someone is going to walk in with.
You should. All right, let's start doing that. We still don't have a conclusion to the Eye of Sarnath. We still have no idea whether or not Omnis is an alien artificial intelligence or just somebody's evil computer in Midtown.
Right. Just some other evil scientist just getting by.
So what is our moral takeaway from this episode?
What is the moral?
2 cents. Says technology can be great if you know how to master it. Shredder let the AI run wild, and the turtles stuck true to what they know and how to win.
I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. I was definitely leaning in the direction of like, like not as eloquently, but like don't abuse technology kind of thing. Because Donnie responsibly uses it and is able to save the day a couple times, and Shredder's just letting this AI run rampant.
Yeah, I think that kind of folds in under what I said.
Yeah, exactly. I'm agreeing with you.
And you said we were going to have some discrepancies about the takeaway from this episode. So I honestly think that this is at least another excellent. Maybe not a full-blown cowabunga, but in the realm of Chevy Nova, Bossa Nova, excellent, and cowabunga. I take it your takeaway from this episode is not as generous.
Okay. I'll tell you where I started and where I ended. Where I started after having watched the episode, I was like, okay, this wasn't as bad as last episode, but I think the quality overall took a steep drop in these last 2 episodes.
Just in production value.
Yeah. I think this felt rushed. The animation was sloppy at times, and there was a lot of plot contrivance throughout. And I feel like when you compare those to the earlier episodes where it felt like they were really taking their time with the concept and like the plot was going somewhere, if you compare those to this, it's like night and day. But having gone through it now with you and kind of rewatching it again as we're like going through the episode, I lightened up on it a lot. And so I think there was just like the first time I watched it, I was getting just a little bit too into the weeds and wishing it was something that it wasn't, which is that like the first couple episodes of the series in season 1 are very much like this version's retelling of the graphic novel, like of the comic. And now it's getting into like, okay, but now this is a kid's cartoon that has to run hopefully in perpetuity. So it makes a lot of sense that like the driving motion that was in the first season is kind of gone now. And now we just have these like vague setups to say like, okay, this is the problem that we're dealing with today. So I came down on it very hard when I first watched it, and I'm leaning a little bit being towards more forgiving because it was rather fun.
I think it stands on its own. Like, yeah, this is a big deviation from the source material. we've been working our way towards that the last couple of episodes. I mean, let's be honest. The 87 series does not tie closely to the comics at all. It's got the spirit, got the heart, not so much the execution. So, yeah, I've quickly abandoned like trying to compare and contrast it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't even really comparing it to the comic. I was more comparing it to itself.
All right. I just think this is a step back in the right direction compared to last episode. That's all I'll say.
For sure. It is absolutely better than last episode. And I think, like, I will reserve more judgment for, like, watching the next episode and seeing where it's going. I just, like, the first time I watched it, I was really down on it. But I'm feeling a lot better about it now. So I would kind of put it in that same, like, excellent category as you.
Excellent it is. I mean, it's a hard one to kind of button down because the 87 series is such a beast on its own.
Well, I think for me, it was just this idea that, like, the script was better by far, but it was also, like, the first example of them going through the kind of animation and, like, timing rush that can happen when you're trying to do so much at one time. And this is not to, like, bash the animators or the script people or, like, all the people who, like, you know, put a lot of work into this show. Like, I really appreciate everything that they have done. It just, you know, like, I'm going to call it like I see it, and the way I see it is that, like, this episode is better but still kind of weaker than some of the ones that came before, and I'm personally hoping that the next ones don't follow this trend of, like, you know, multiple different studios in one episode and the, like, rushing of the plot towards the end because they kind of just fell off the wheels and didn't really know where to go with it, that kind of thing.
Well, that's how animation and entertainment works, but I think we'll be pleasantly surprised. I think there's a lot of ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and you know what it is? There's like whole episodes that have kind of stuck in my memory that we haven't gotten to yet, and so I do agree with you. I think, like, things are going to get better from here because there's a reason why I remember those episodes. And I'm thinking of, like, the one with the xenomorphs and the one where, like, Splinter gets turned human again for a tiny bit of time. There's even that, like, comedic one of them, like, trying to get a new kimono for him, if I remember correctly. But, like,
oh yeah,
there's some episodes that I have, like, really fond, like, brief memories of where I couldn't tell you anything about the actual plot, just, like, the barest memory that stuck in my memory, and I'm really looking forward to getting to those.
I mean, so much can be contributed to the Fred Wolf / Archie comics, you know, like Metalhead.
Yeah.
Armagon. So many of these essential characters that come into play later on are attributed to the animated series. So
Wingnut and Screwloose.
Wingnut, Screwloose, absolutely. Mutagen Man. Yeah, so much is still to come. They're trying to really set up, like, the ties to Alien, which is important for the Turtles. Like,
yeah,
I remember when they were announcing Michael Bay Turtles. Like, oh, they're all aliens now. I'm like, well, technically, because they came from an alien group, but they're still terrestrial. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think, like, part of this for me too is that, like, when you think of the 1987 cartoon, I don't know about you, but to me, I think of all the different mutants, all the different characters that got turned into toys, the things that, you know, like, you begged your parents to have the new figure of, and, like, I'm sorry, but, like, Omnis wasn't one of them.
Yeah, you're right. Could you imagine that toy just like a computer, like, standalone screen thing that somebody just buys? That'd be the worst toy ever.
Right. So it's like I get what they're doing, and it's an interesting, like, foil to set up for there being, like, this chase between the Turtles and Shredder. Who's gonna get all the pieces first? Like, it's a good Maltese Falcon setup to get some action out of, but it's not really what I remember the series for. And so I'm really excited to get into that next phase where they're back to being like, all right, we're making all these crazy new mutants. We're seeing all these new characters. We're getting again, I think you hit the nail on the head too, where, like, some of my memory is probably also coming from the Archie comics where, like, you know, is Mondo Gecko and the Mutanimals in this series, or was that spin-offs in the comics that were, like, you know, parallel to the show? I don't even know. We're going to find out.
Mondo shows up. as does the Xenomorph Pizza Monsters.
Yeah.
That's actually very soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that one a lot. But, it's like, give me Ace Duck.
Yeah, I hear you. Give me Cuddly Cowlick.
Exactly. Yes. Those are all the characters that I'm really looking forward to. And that's like the mental space where this animated series kind of lives for me, with all those fun, bright characters. And so far what we've gotten is like a weird E.T. lookalike and a bunch of crystals.
I mean, still coming, though. We know that the 87 Fred Wolf series honored the relationship with Stan Sakai. So Usagi Yojimbo is coming. Usagi Yojimbo has appeared in every iteration of the Turtles, as he should.
So exciting.
What I'm waiting for is the next, whenever they do another Ninja Turtles cartoon, which probably isn't that far off, really need to see like the Flaming Carrot and
oh man.
Oh shit, what's his name?
Savage Dragon.
I mean, I wouldn't hate Savage Dragon, but I'm mostly looking forward to Cerebus, the Aardvark.
Oh yeah.
If we're going into comic roots. Was
Usagi Yojimbo in Rise?
No, Usagi did not show up in Rise, to my knowledge.
Shame.
We're doing a really great place for him too, right? With all the amazing like fight choreography in that show. If you can dislike Rise, but like that fight animation was bonkers.
Give us a second Rise movie, Netflix, you cowards.
Give us season 3. All right, we're at the end of the episode. It's time for our daily affirmation, our daily pizza-mation. And today it's brought to you by Charles Swindle. And he says, pizza is 10% what you add as a topping and 90%
there it
how
is.
You bake it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to join us on our Discord, follow us on Twitter and all that jazz. And we'll hopefully see you next week for another episode of Duderonomy, a TMNT retread. In the meantime, I'm Brian.
I'm Dan.
And cowabunga, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Duderonomy is produced by Brian Van Gelder and me, Dan Spitaleri. Brian edits and mixes the show and also designed our show art. Our theme music is composed by Mario Sello Nuñez. You can hear more of his music on Spotify, which we've linked to in the show notes. Find us on Twitter at Duderonomy_TMNT and send email to Duderonomy.tmnt@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Cowabunga!